The rain has a peculiar sound tonight. It isn't peaceful, more like an echo, a rhythm that reminds you of something intimate and broken. You stand by the window, tracing your own faint reflection, noticing how the face you once knew looks distant, hollow, almost pleading for explanation. You gave everything for love once. Every word, every quiet promise, every trembling act of devotion. And yet somehow you ended up invisible. You believed love was the place where truth lived. But what if love was never about truth at all? What if it was a disguise, an exquisite performance that started with tenderness and ended with control? You replay that day in slow motion. The way they smiled, the warmth that felt like sunlight after years of emotional winter, the small gestures that whispered safety. You thought you had found forever. But beneath that warmth, something colder stirred, a subtle sense that you were being observed, not loved, evaluated, not understood. Love became a mirror, but not one that reflected beauty. It reflected fear, the fear of losing control, the fear of being unseen, the fear of being unworthy. And slowly it turned you into both lover and hostage. There's a question that hums beneath your ribs tonight, rising like a pulse you can no longer ignore. What if love is not always connection? What if sometimes love is camouflage for what we fear most? In this silence, your memory deepens. You think of moments that didn't make sense then, but do now. The comforting words that felt rehearsed, the apologies that were more about guilt than understanding. The way they had to be right, even in tenderness. The way I love you sounded like surrender disguised as care. We tell ourselves that love heals, but not all love does. Some love clings, consumes, commands. Some love says, I'm doing this for you, while quietly rearranging the truth to fit its own fear. Some love becomes the most elegant form of control, a chain made of affection, soft enough to hide, strong enough to hold. Outside, thunder rolls, distant but threatening. You sense that something inside you has been waiting for this storm, to name what you always felt but couldn't articulate. You were loved, yes, but you were loved as long as you fit a version of love that someone else could manage. You didn't fall for love. You fell for validation dressed as love. Because if you didn't, who would you be without it? The window fogs with your breath. You write a word, love, and watch it fade. You remember how quickly affection could vanish too, whenever you spoke your truth. Whenever you refused to play the softer version of yourself, the one they preferred. Here lies the question that will follow you through this journey. Do people hide behind love because they fear hurting others, or because they fear who they are without control? Love, pure love, is freedom, but most people are terrified of freedom. Freedom means risk. Freedom means the possibility of abandonment, rejection, and exposure. So they cling instead. They wrap their wounds in words like care, forever, sacrifice. They don't know that love, when used to conceal pain, becomes the most beautiful prison of all. You close your eyes. The sound of the rain grows heavier, rhythmic, hypnotic. Each drop feels like a question falling from the sky. How many times have you called control? Love. This is where your story begins. A slow unraveling of everything you were told love was supposed to be. Because maybe you weren't betrayed by love. Maybe you were betrayed by the idea of it, the fantasy you were taught to crave, the version that promised safety at the cost of your soul. Tonight, the rain doesn't stop, and neither do your thoughts. You realize something unnerving. You were both the puppet and the puppeteer. You used love to seek safety. They used love to seek power. And in that fragile dance, neither of you were free. Somewhere between your heartbeat and the rain, you understand that love, when born from fear, becomes manipulation. Not because we are cruel, but because we are desperate. Desperate to be seen, to be chosen, to matter. This is not about blame. It's about awakening. So as you watch your reflection dissolve into the night, you take a breath. You are ready to see, to peel away the mask, to face what we call love and what it has become. Hidden patterns of love. You drift through memories like someone lost in a foggy, endless corridor. The echoes of past affection mix with unspoken motives, forming patterns you never wanted to admit. You realize now, love isn't always innocent. Sometimes it is an artful arrangement, a tapestry woven with fear, longing, and need for self-preservation. Imagine the scene. Someone pulls you close. Their arms are warm, words comforting, laughter sweet. Yet beneath the surface, a silent transaction is unfolding. Subtle bargains are struck. I'll protect your secrets if you never abandon mine. I'll give you praise if you offer submission. Love becomes a currency, traded in glances, sighs, conditional forgiveness. You start to notice the choreography of everyday affection, the way compliments become tools for reassurance, and apologies arrive only when perceived as necessary for peace. You see how the phrase, I love you, sometimes carries invisible caveats, spoken for reassurance, not devotion. Sometimes the lover disappears after getting what they wanted, leaving behind echoes and confusion. Eyes tell the story. Sometimes as you look into theirs, they look back seeking confirmation, not connection. They want validation, the kind that says, you are enough, so I am enough too. Behind the gaze is an old wound, a fragile ego longing to be held, supported, never exposed. It strikes you that most people are not aware of these patterns. Affection is often unconscious manipulation, a shield for the ego, a refuge for insecurity. You are taught early that love is sacrifice, but rarely do you learn that sacrifice can be a disguised bid for control. You forget to ask, when does devotion cross into dependency? You remember moments you gave yourself away, not out of generosity but out of fear. You wanted to be irreplaceable. You overextended just to feel chosen. Each gesture was a plea. See me, need me, don't leave me. Love became second skin, one you wore until it grew too tight to breathe. In psychology, this is called attachment anxiety. You cling not always because you adore, but because you fear the loss, the silence, the emptiness that might follow. Love morphs from joy to a calculated dance. Give enough, and maybe you will not be abandoned. There are times you see it so clearly in others too. The parent who offers unconditional love, but only as long as you obey. The friend who showers kindness until your independence threatens their place. The lover who says, I just care about you, but their care tightens like a fist when you step outside their expectations. What do all these scenes have in common? Fear, the ache to be accepted, to control destiny, to mend old wounds without ever showing them. Love masquerades as selflessness, but beneath it lies a desperate hope that you will choose them, not for who they are, but for the security they offer. You sense it in yourself as well. The moments you needed their eyes to light up when you entered the room. The ways you changed your story, made yourself gentler or fiercer, just to align with what you believed they could love. You did it for closeness, but also for safety. A safety that was never truly yours. Picture the world as a vast theater. Each person carries their own script, their own collection of hurts. Sometimes their lines are meant for connection, but just as often, they're defensive. I'll love you, but you must never leave. You are mine, but only if you remain the person I imagine. These aren't conditions for love. They are conditions for survival. Metaphorically, affection is a soft shadow, wrapping, cooling, almost invisible. Yet it can dim the brightest sky if used to hide truth. You see it in subtle silences, in forced laughter after a difficult conversation, in the way a hand lingers on your shoulder longer than necessary, as if to stake claim, not share comfort. Some days the mask falls briefly. It happens during moments of crisis, arguments, confessions, departures. You glimpse a raw vulnerability, the trembling hands, the downcast eyes, the language no longer as smooth as silk. Here the pattern is revealed. You see that everything done in the name of love was actually a monument to fear, an architecture built to weather abandonment, not to celebrate joy. There's a particular sound in your memory, the way someone said your name during a fight. It wasn't said with love, it was said with desperation, clinging, a need to hold on to control when the truth threatened to break the fragile peace. This, you realize, is the heartbeat of disguised love, the need to shape you into someone safe, someone predictable, someone who fits inside their story and never steps out. You start to see that everybody's wounded in some way. We carry our shame, our longing, our fear like hidden keys. We offer love not always to connect, but sometimes to lock others inside a fantasy. We say forever, but mean please don't change. We say I care, but think don't make me face loneliness. Beneath the poetry of love, a psychological script unfolds. It starts in childhood, grows through adolescence, matures with our betrayals and recoveries. Each heartbreak adds a layer, instructs us which masks to choose, which words to wield. Our affection becomes measured, refracted through the lens of trauma, aspiration, anxiety. And yet, in the twilight between manipulation and care, you feel a strange compassion. Everyone you loved, and who loved you, was merely trying to survive. They did not know affection could be a weapon. Nor did you. The rain returns, heavier now, punctuating reflection with a sorrowful rhythm. You realize you are not alone. Millions hide behind love, fearing what will surface if love is stripped away. Control feels safer than surrender. Denial feels easier than vulnerability. This is the hidden pattern. Love is protection. Love is transaction. Love is avoidance of pain. Each caress, each promise, each echoing, I need you, all shaped by unseen fears. In this moment, you acknowledge the honesty it takes to see manipulation. It isn't cruel. It is desperate. It is human. The patterns are woven from our longing for happiness, our inability to accept imperfection, our hope that we won't be deserted. You open your eyes, feeling the chill on your skin, the memory alive like a ghost. You are ready to uncover the next layer. The moment affection transforms, not into safety, but into control. The story deepens. The mask of love awaits. The mask of love. The mask appears slowly, almost kindly. It is the gentlest disguise. The voice that trembles with tenderness. The eyes that glisten in candlelight. The outstretched hand in the dark. You are drawn to it, lulled into its gravity. This is what you believe love must be. But as you listen, as you truly listen, its patterns become clear. Love's mask is not always malevolent. Sometimes it is simply afraid. You remember the first time it happened. You said no to a small favor, a gentle refusal, a mild boundary. Their face shifted, just a fraction. Was it disappointment? Or was it something deeper, a fracture in their image of who you should be? The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of judgment, of unspoken contracts suddenly breached. Later that evening, they wrapped their arms around you, whispered, I just care about you. I only want what's best for us. The words were velvet, but beneath them lingered expectation. Love became a soft cage, gilded with concern. You felt yourself shrinking to fit the space they made for you, to avoid the chill of loneliness that threatened if you strayed outside their embrace. This is how the mask works. It rarely shouts, it persuades. It weaves affection through the air, then binds you with invisible thread. Acts of protection double as shields against change. Expressions of worry sound like devotion, but ache with distrust. I'm only trying to help, they say, but help always comes with conditions. The subtle implication that love is a favor, not a birthright. You sense it most during moments of independence, when you try to assert your own needs. Their support becomes tight, their patience conditional. It is as if love requires you to remain gentle, moldable, willing to erase pieces of yourself to avoid conflict. Their devotion is real, but their acceptance is not unconditional. Picture a lover seated at a dimly lit table, voice smooth as silk, recounting all the sacrifices they have made. I gave up so much for you, they say, recounting each instance as evidence. Their posture is stoic, their pain raw. You are meant to feel grateful, indebted. You are meant to stay. What began as cherishing turns to leverage, the cost of love measured in guilt rather than joy. Sometimes it sounds like laughter. At a gathering, a joke at your expense, delivered with a knowing grin. I just want you to loosen up, they explain, as you swallow the sting. Their care becomes a weapon dressed as humor, a way to keep you off balance, to remind you that acceptance has its limits. There are quieter moments too. The late-night check-ins, the gentle prying into your private thoughts. They say, "I worry about you," but their worry often arrives with surveillance, suspicion. The flow of love is reciprocal, but beneath its surface, insecurity stirs. The dance continues. Each time you question the arrangement, remorse follows. Flowers, apologies, sincere eyes. They don't want you to leave, because then they would face their solitude. The mask tightens not because you are evil, but because you are essential. Without you, they fear they will lose themselves entirely. You remember seeing the mask on your own face as well. Times you withheld praise to get what you needed. Moments when you played the martyr, doing too much, expecting silent gratitude. You realize love's mask is not exclusive to one partner or another. It is a dance of mutual illusion, a continuous bargaining. Give a little, take a little more. In families, the mask grows heavy. The mother who insists, "I know what's best," is also the mother who fears her child's autonomy. The father who demands respect in the name of tradition dreams of a world where he will never be obsolete. The mask of parental love is painted in sacrifice, but its colors run with possessiveness and regret. Friendships wear the mask too. The friend who calls only when they are in crisis. Their love is loud, but it is laced with dependency. Or the one who becomes jealous when you change, who resents new joys in your life. Their support falters when it does not serve their script. Society itself encourages the mask. Movies, stories, songs, all teach that real love means absolute self-surrender. If you walk away, if you demand space, if you choose yourself, you are selfish, cold, unlovable. So you learn not to question the mask at all. Stand before the mirror. Watch your own face shift and flicker. When have you said, "I just want to protect you," but really meant, "I just want to keep you close"? When did you tell yourself this is love, when it was really irrepressible fear? It is easy to mistake the mask for love's true nature. It is soft, beautiful, plausible. It tells us that love is safe, controlled, and ordered. But in truth, love that demands compliance is not love. It is possession dressed in adoration. It is the manipulation of freedom, the subtle shaping of another's will through guilt or gratitude or fear. You recall moments when, trapped behind your own mask, you pushed too hard, times when your support felt like limitation to someone else. You see now that every act done to prevent abandonment was never about them. It was always about you, your unmet need, your fear of loss, your pride disguised as sacrifice. The rain falls heavier outside, thudding, relentless, insistent. It mimics the pounding of your own heart, the anxiety that comes with recognizing your reflection in the ones you resented. You start to understand, to love without the mask is to risk everything. It is to allow another their full agency, to embrace uncertainty, to accept the possibility that love may change, may die, may grow in unexpected ways. But most people, most of the time, cannot bear that risk. Instead, they shape love into something manageable, predictable, unchanging. They hide behind "I love you" because they are terrified of the silence that might follow, the unanswered gaze, the space where true freedom begins. You catch yourself thinking, if love is so often a mask, can it also be true? Or is every act of caring just another attempt to bend reality to our needs? Perhaps the answer is not in the mask itself, but in our willingness to recognize it, to admit that sometimes to love is to control, and sometimes to crave is to trap another inside our fantasy of who they should be. The mask is not evil. It is born from longing, from a child's hope for endless comfort. It is the adult's attempt to freeze affection, to guarantee it like a contract. But life doesn't honor such bargains. Sooner or later, the mask cracks. Truth seeps through the seams, sometimes in rage, sometimes in grief, sometimes in a whisper of relief. Tonight, as you listen to the rain, you sense the mask loosening, yours, theirs, everyone's. You see the sadness beneath all control, the silent prayer. Please don't leave. Please don't change. Please let love be a place where I am never alone. You linger in this realization. Let the room grow dark. Feel the pulse of longing, not as shameful, but as part of what it means to be human. Because one day the mask will fall completely, and you will need to know who you are beneath it. The fear of rejection. The fear runs deep, older than memory, older than words. Before you learn to say, I love you, you learn the ache of being unwanted. Childhood was a season of silent lessons. Affection given, then withheld. Praise danced out, then gone cold. You listened for footsteps in the hall, for the breathless hush that meant someone was angry, disappointed, or bored with your existence. Fear of rejection is the first heartbreak. Sometimes it arrives quietly, a parent too tired to listen. Sometimes it explodes, a storm of harsh words or slammed doors. Either way, a story is etched in your bones. Connection is fragile. Love is conditional. Your worth depends on someone else's approval. You grow older, but the pattern mutates, not dissolves. The playground is an audition stage. Friendships form and break on shifting alliances. The first time you offer vulnerability to a friend, a crush, a sibling, you also offer your trembling heart. The answer is not always kindness. Sometimes the echo is indifference, ridicule, betrayal. You start to build armor, smiles that promise nothing, achievements that substitute for belonging. Each time you reach and find emptiness, the armor thickens. Eventually, you learn that love is a game of survival. You perform, adjust, beg, or disappear. It's easier to manipulate affection than risk exposure. The rain outside mirrors this inner storm, 1,000 drops, each a memory of longing unmet. You hear the things people have said in moments of pain or anger. Just stop being so sensitive. You always disappoint me. Why can't you be more like them? The words cut quickly and then linger for a lifetime. You search for comfort not in truth, but in adaptation. If you sense disapproval, you shift your laughter, change your opinions, tailor your desires. You learn which version of yourself is safest, most lovable, least likely to be abandoned. You hide pieces away, pretending they were never yours. As you enter adult relationships, the fear grows sophisticated. Manipulation becomes a shield against rejection. You say, I'll do anything for you, hoping they'll never leave. You offer gifts, listen too closely, forgive too easily. You give so much that you become invisible again. What you call devotion is actually self-erasure. Sometimes the people you attract are wounded too. They see your willingness as weakness, your boundaries as threats. They say, I need you, but really mean I need control. Love becomes a negotiation. Each gesture weighed, each silence punished. You want security so much you allow yourself to fade. You recall a scene, sitting in the car after midnight, tears staining your shirt, voice barely audible. Why don't you love me the way I love you? The answer you always feared is silence, or pity, or guilt. None are the connection you crave. Each time the fear grows, and echoes so deep it shapes every future choice. You learn the language of avoidance. If they seem distant, you become agreeable, softer, more accommodating. If their tone sharpens, you apologize before knowing what for. You imagine that by pleasing, you can guarantee permanence. But permanence built on fear is like architecture atop sand. Psychology calls this codependency, a desperate effort to maintain connection at the cost of autonomy. You shape yourself according to another's needs. Your feelings vanish into theirs. Your story becomes irrelevant. It is not love, but terror. Terror of the night when you are left behind, unchosen. You see it everywhere you look. The partner who checks their lover's phone, terrified of secrets. The friend who becomes possessive, unable to let joy exist outside their orbit. The parent who coddles, fearing independence means irrelevance. Each person is fighting their own war with rejection. Some go cold, some go controlling, and everywhere the mask of love offers cover. I only want you to be safe, one says, while really wanting to be indispensable. I just worry about you, another says while checking for evidence of betrayal. Pause in the silence. Examine your own actions. When have you loved not out of freedom, but out of fear? When have you given so much that your soul shrank, hoping the gift would keep loneliness at bay? There is no one to blame. Humans are wired for connection, and the deepest wound is abandonment. Psychologists say that children deprived of reliable caregiving organize their lives around avoidance or anxiety. In adulthood, these patterns persist, disguised as romance and friendship. You begin to notice the ritual, the anxious checking in, the need for constant reassurance, the sentences that start with, "Are you mad at me?" or "Will you always be here?" This is not trust. It is an unspoken panic inherited from years of insecurity. But the pain is not only personal, the fear of rejection shapes society itself. Cultures build rituals to prevent exile. Families create traditions to bind members into loyalty. The stories we tell each other are full of the lonely wanderer, searching for home that never quite feels safe. In those stories, love is salvation, but only if you play the part. Stray too far, and you become the cautionary tale, the outcast, the villain, the one who never fit. Lift the mirror. Look at yourself. See the child who wants to belong. See the adult who will do almost anything not to be left behind. Notice the beautiful lie. There's a moment when the beautiful lie finally collapses, a slow, aching unraveling. You have carried it for so long, woven it into every gesture and promise. You believed in it because belief felt safer than absence, gentler than the cold truth. The lie was not malicious, it was merciful, a silent agreement that held love together long after its true spirit had gone. Imagine waking beside someone you once adored, the morning chilled by a distance that no words can cross. You notice the ritual, the smile, the gentle brush of hair, the customary good morning. But the warmth is practiced, the touch is learned. You are both playing roles, and you know it. The lie says love will last forever, if only you keep pretending. The lie whispers that sacrifice means safety, that silence means peace. If you hold enough secrets, if you edit yourself just enough, everything will remain beautiful. But beauty made of denial is paper thin, and the rain outside begins to dissolve it. In this story, you feel the emptiness growing. You offer affection as a shield, and they receive it gratefully, even when it rings hollow. Time slows, conversations repeat, intimacy fades. You both sense it, but neither wants to speak. If you do, the fantasy crumbles. The landscape of your lives must be redrawn. There are moments when longing returns, between the laughter, during the brief touches in the kitchen, while watching storms gather beyond the window. You hope that one day the distance will close, that love, even disguised, will mend itself. But the mask is heavy now. Your arms tire of holding it up. You witness it in others too. Friends who stay for convenience, lovers who linger out of responsibility, parents who offer praise tinged with regret. Everyone is acting, believing the lie will keep them safe from what they truly fear. Loneliness, rejection, the unknown. You find yourself growing quiet. The performance leaves you drained. You no longer want their approval. You crave authenticity. Yet the lie persists because to reveal the emptiness is to face the possibility of loss. You ask yourself, who will I be if I choose honesty over comfort? The answer is not simple. The collapse of the beautiful lie is not a single moment. It is a series of awakenings. One day the apology feels forced. Another, the touch does not comfort. Soon even the laughter fails to reach you. The space between hearts grows into a chasm. You try to revive what is lost. Gifts, surprises, apologies. Each attempt a tribute to the fantasy. Some days nostalgia fills the hollow places. You remember how love once felt. Electric, brave, limitless. But nostalgia is a ghost, incapable of reviving what has died. In the quiet that follows, you sense the loss everywhere. Not just in your own story, but in the stories around you. The colleagues whose marriages are built on routines. The friendships anchored in avoidance. The families connected by guilt rather than joy. You see the lie in their eyes, in the syllables that don't quite land, in the desperate rituals of togetherness. You watch the rain soak the city, each drop a tiny elegy for loves that were more illusion than reality. You wonder if anyone truly says goodbye to the lie, or if most carry its weight year after year until the final silence. The pain of the collapse is sharp at first, then cool. You confront your reflection, eyes clear, heart heavier. You admit that you were not really loved for yourself, but for the role you played. And that perhaps you did not truly love them, but loved the idea of being loved. You accept that the lie was beautiful only because you were afraid. Afraid of emptiness, afraid of change, afraid of your own yearning. You see now that real love could never have asked you to vanish, to surrender, to perform endlessly. Yet there is redemption buried in that emptiness. When the mask falls, when denial dissolves, something honest is born. Painful, yes, but honest. You understand that to be seen truly, even if it means being rejected, is a kind of grace. The room grows silent. The rain pauses as if listening to your heartbeat. You know now that the beautiful lie was never love's fault. It was yours, theirs, everyone's. A mutual construction, admired and feared, crumbled and kept alive year after year. You do not mourn the fantasy. You mourn only the time spent clinging to what could never be real. In the emptiness, you feel space for truth, for dignity, for selfhood. The story is not finished. It is ready for the mirror, the moment when you ask not who betrayed you, but who you became to survive. The mirror moment. In the hush that follows emptiness, you stand before the mirror, a simple, cold reflection stretching further than the glass itself. At first, you are unsure what you see. Is it sadness, regret, weariness from years of carrying the mask, upholding the lie, stitching new roles upon your soul with every fear of loss? Silence gathers in the room, thick as fog. The rain outside slows to a scattered tapping, as if time itself is pausing to let you breathe. This is the mirror moment, a threshold where you stop searching for answers in someone else's eyes and begin asking questions of your own heart. You lean closer. The glimmer in your gaze is different now, both softer and rawer. Images bloom behind your forehead, memories of choosing silence over honesty, laughter over truth, company over peace. You see yourself speaking words that made others stay, even when what you needed was distance. Not because you meant to deceive, but because you did not know any other way to feel wanted. The questions come quietly, yet relentlessly. When did I begin to equate love with survival? How many times did I hide my longing, hoping affection would fill the void? Why did I believe that control was safer than openness? It becomes clear. No one set out to manipulate. No one set out to become the villain of their own romance. The manipulations were gentle, almost accidental, rooted in an ancient, universal ache. The desire to be needed, irreplaceable, indispensable in another's life. You trace that ache back to childhood, to the first time your worth felt uncertain. Now, in front of the mirror, your defenses fall away. The old urge to blame someone else, lover, parent, friend, softens. You see that everyone you have ever loved was simply repeating their own unresolved stories. No one injures from malice alone. Hurt begets hurt. Manipulation is the language of the wounded. You sense time unraveling, secrets revealed. There are moments you remember not with pride, but with humility. The occasions when you pressed too hard, withdrew affection as punishment, or offered comfort only to win it in return. The mirror shows you not only as victim, but as participant. In the script of love, you played every role. Outside, the city is awash in blue and gray, a palette of melancholy and longing. In the glass, the rain-washed scene grows layered. Your reflection, the lonely street, the runnels of water tracing the frame. Everything is a metaphor for what you feel now. A heart opened by silence, finally ready to see. You let yourself recall the words you spoke for approval, the boundaries you erased for affection, even the times you wished silently for someone to change. Compassion rises, the anger dissolves. You did what you had to do to feel safe, just as they did. You are not evil. You are simply scared. This realization arrives gradually, like dawn breaking after a lifetime of midnight. All manipulation, the shaping and bending and pleading called love, is rooted in the terror of abandonment, the ancient fear that to be left is to disappear. But the mirror does not accuse. It waits, still, honest. A slow, trembling acceptance dawns. You are not always capable of loving freely. Sometimes you love from emptiness. Sometimes you tried to cage those you cared for, hoping their certainty would banish your own doubts. Sometimes you clung. Sometimes you ran. You inhale, steady and deep. The air tastes different now, damp, metallic, tinged with resolve. For the first time, you do not flinch from your own gaze. You do not seek reassurance. In silence, you ask yourself what you truly want: to be adored, to be understood, to be chosen even at the price of your freedom? Or is it something deeper, to be whole, even if it means being alone? In philosophy, the self is both subject and object. You are both the observer and the observed. You think of Jung's shadow, the forgotten, hungry parts of your psyche you tried so hard to outgrow. The mirror moment is the chance to embrace that darkness, to forgive your most frightened self. You are not outside your own story, but always at its center. You remember hands reaching, voices pleading, all those years of believing that love would save you. But now you see salvation was never hiding in someone's devotion. Your liberation lies in your own willingness to stand unmasked, undefended, fully seen. You notice the small things: the catch in your throat, the tears that blur your focus, the chill that passes through your spine. These are not signs of weakness, but evidence of awakening. The mirror does not flatter or soften. It demands that you stand, shivering, with all your needs and wounds exposed. Yet even here, you are not alone. Humanity is a tapestry of fears and longing, each person gazing into their own mirror, each person trying to find the courage to tell the truth. I only tried to control because I could not bear the risk. I only hid behind love because I did not know how to stay when I felt broken. You ask, can love grow from honesty, not defense? Can you let others walk away if it means they are free to choose you? Can you trust that real affection lives where control ends? For the first time, the answers seem possible. An inner monologue begins, gentle, haunting, truthful. I forgive myself for loving poorly. I forgive myself for mistaking need for connection. I forgive the child inside me who was terrified of rejection. I forgive the lover, the friend, the sibling, all the forms I took to find a sense of home. I forgive the ways I caged myself with fear. The silence deepens in the room. Your reflection begins to soften, to shimmer. Not because you are perfect, but because you are finally honest. You realize now, the wound was never a flaw. It was a portal to compassion, a test you could only pass by facing it without disguise. The world outside the window is hushed. The rain resumes, gentle, forgiving, tracing patterns on the glass. You watch your face in the mirror, not searching for approval or rehearsal, but greeting yourself fully, almost with gratitude. Tonight, the mirror is not an adversary, but a witness. Here you understand, when love is born from fear, it becomes entrapment. When born from honesty, it becomes liberation. You stand in that truth, trembling, transformed, ready for what the next day brings. A path that leads not to more cunning armor, but to something softer, braver. The time is coming to let go of the mask for good and to step into the healing that waits on the other side. The healing from the tangled roots of emotional manipulation begins quietly, often in the places you least expect: the stillness between heartbeats, the breath you take when no one is watching, the whispered moments where you choose to feel rather than hide. You start by learning the most important lesson: your worth was never contingent on another's approval. This realization is not a sudden epiphany, but a slow awakening. It begins with soft steps, small acts of kindness directed inward, moments when you say, I am enough, and mean it, even if just a little. Therapists call this rebuilding self-esteem. After the erosion of manipulation, your sense of self has been weathered, fragile. You may carry a quiet voice inside, telling you that you don't deserve kindness, that your feelings are too much, that freedom is too risky. But therapy, support groups, and inner reflection offer new languages. Languages of compassion, boundaries, and truth. You imagine yourself planting a garden. Each seed is a boundary, a clear, firm line drawn with love and respect. No becomes a sacred word, a tool of self-protection rather than rejection. You learn to recognize when affection is genuine, not a mask, when care is offered freely, not as a currency. In therapy, techniques like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, help reframe distorted beliefs. You practice recognizing the difference between guilt and responsibility, between fear and intuition. You learn to listen to your body, your heart, your mind, and trust what you hear. Healing demands patience. You cannot rush it or force it. Grounding yourself in the present moment becomes a balm. Sensory awareness, the coolness of a breeze, the scent of rain, the sound of distant laughter, reminds you that you are alive, whole, and deserving of peace. Mindfulness practices help you untangle the waste of past hurts from the fertile soil of potential joy. Supportive relationships become your refuge. People who respect your space, who listen without judgment, who love you without strings. Sometimes they are friends, sometimes strangers, sometimes your own reflection in the mirror. You expand your circle of trust, slowly but surely. You confront triggers and flashbacks, learning they do not define you. You develop tools to meet them with courage rather than shrinking away. Breathing exercises, journaling, affirmations. Each challenge faced is a victory. Each step toward wholeness, a revolution. Healing also means forgiveness, complex, often misunderstood. You do not forgive to forget or excuse. You forgive to free yourself from the chains of resentment, to reclaim your power. You learn to forgive those who manipulated out of their own pain, and yourself for the times you held on too tightly. You reclaim your story, no longer a chapter in someone else's book, but the author of your own narrative. You rediscover dreams once buried beneath obligation and fear. Choices once silenced by doubt begin to sing again. This process is not linear. There are days of triumph and nights of despair. But the thread that binds it all is hope. Hope that love can be different, that freedom is possible, that you are worthy of both. You emerge slowly, beneath layers of scar and shadow, into a dawn of understanding. Your heart learns new rhythms, not the erratic beats of fear, but the steady pulse of authenticity. You see that healing is not about erasing the past, but integrating it with grace. The garden of your soul grows, not in perfection, but in resilience. And in its growth, love is no longer a mask, no longer a prison. It is a choice made freely, again and again. The liberation, you step into liberation, like stepping into sunlight after a long, dark night. The air feels different now, lighter, unfiltered. Space opens around you, not as a void, but as pure possibility. Liberation is not an arrival, it is a becoming. It is the courage to feel love without chains, the grace to accept loss without grasping, and the wisdom to trust yourself completely. It is the deep knowing that love was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be felt, wildly and freely. You remember every masked moment, every manipulated word, every shadowy bargain, but you no longer carry them as burdens. Instead, you hold them like stars, parts of a constellation that map where you've been and guide where you're going. Self-acceptance blooms. You are whole, not despite your scars, but because of them. You realize your humanity is your strength. The fears that once commanded you become lessons, not shackles. And love, a love without masks, begins to flow naturally. It is patient and kind, fierce and gentle. It honors boundaries, nurtures freedom, and asks only for honesty. You are no longer the puppet nor the puppeteer. You are a participant in a dance where every step is chosen and every breath is a gift. As the rain ceases and dawn breaks truly, you hear the quiet voice within. You were never meant to control love. You were meant to feel it freely. The journey continues, but you walk it unburdened, unmasked, and profoundly alive.